and swing out wide. Do the skill mix and a step or two, put them all together and you're doing the jive. And stomp your feet and you swing out wide. Mess around a while, shake it, boogie woogie.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a great day. You are coming off of the 4th of July festivities. I know that, it's, of course, the day represents more than just a day off, but it's, kind of nice when it lands on a Monday or a Friday or even a Sunday. But, hey, middle of the week, day off for a lot of us, and we hope that you are back to work with not much of a hangover. And hey, you are ready for some Computer America as well, and everyone has all 10 fingers and toes as well. So, with that being said, welcome into the program. We have a great show planned for you today, where because Wednesday we had off too at Computer America, you may have noticed we play the best of. But normally first Wednesday of the month is dedicated to our regular Mike Cermak, who is now joining us today instead. I know it's going to throw everyone's calendar off. But hey, it's okay. Mike Cermak joining us all hour as we talk about, a lot of computer technology news and what he's been up to with techguy.org and, and his day life. So, folks, a couple of things before we get started, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that, the show notes for today. So any articles we link to, a link to our guest website, any videos that we show, everything and anything will be at computeramerica.com. While you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech and check out the live video stream brought to you by OWC. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get Mike on and get talking about some of our topics. So again, longtime listeners, no surprise here, but Mike Cermak, owner and operator of techguy.org, which has been for, almost 2 decades at this point, or I think even longer, Computer America's official help forum. If we can't help you here, we always point you to techguy.org. So Mike, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Happy that you could join us. And of course, hopefully everything is going well with the new baby and everything.
Very well. Thank you very much. Yep. Knock on wood, everyone's healthy. She just had her 2-month checkup today. She was very pleased to have to get 3 shots today, but doing very well, very healthy.
Yeah, no one likes shots, but
Nope.
But great to hear. Happy that you could join us. And before we get started, let's give the people a quick introduction about what you do, who you are, and what techguy.org is.
Heck yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great idea. So techguy.org was started back in 1994, and it's a place for people to go in and ask tech support questions. It kind of started just because people were always asking me computer questions. They always wanted me to help with their problems, right? I mean, I was the computer nerd around, and it's like, hey, my printer's not working. What do I do about that? So it started actually, Ben, I don't know if you know this, I just started putting frequently asked questions on the web, and it was like a tech support guy site, but it was just common solutions. Everyone asked me the same questions, that I upgraded to Windows 98 and now my printer doesn't work. And so I put a step-by-step instructions there on how to fix it. And it was a lot of really common questions and how to fix it. And then people would start emailing me on the website like, oh yeah, how do I fix this problem? And how do I fix this problem? And very shortly, it was too much for me to be able to handle by myself. And so that's when it turned into the community and a forum-based site. And it was one of the first tech support forums out there. Of course, there's many, many very good ones out there now. Ours is one of the first, and allows people to go in there, post questions, and while you're there, there's a very good chance you'll know the answer to someone else's question as well. And that way everyone can kind of help each other out. It's completely free, paid for by donations and also advertisements. And we're very fortunate to have a great group of volunteers there who try to help out.
No, and of course makes perfect sense, and that is kind of an interesting, kind of start. I had never heard that part of it, but it's kind of funny that you could start, way back when it was just, how do I connect to the internet? Or well, I guess if they're posting on the internet, they can't do that. But just like technology, I guess was at a point where there were just so many, or just so few. I don't want to say competition, but there were few enough products and few enough solutions that you could do it in that kind of format. And I guess you could see how quickly, kind of ballooned out of control. But yeah, I mean,
It was
but
the early days. It was an exciting time, that's for sure. I mean, things have changed a lot since then.
right, and
That was before Facebook, before Twitter. You kids these days.
well, yeah, and I guess one good question is how are people still reacting to the forum kind of setup? Because forums they're I don't want to say they're old, but they are
Sure.
tried and true, and we have things like social media and things like that. Forum is still the way to go.
Well, I think for certain things, because the nice thing with the forum is that you find a group of people who are usually specialized in something. When I'm working on a particular project, and if it's a specialized piece of equipment or a specialized whatever, very often there's a forum somewhere of the experts who know how to do this thing. So it's useful for that. And for a long time, our forum was kind of social media as well. We had all sorts of random open discussions that were not computer related, and even groups that people could create of different interest groups where they could communicate. And all of that has gone away. I mean, there's very little of that anymore because people just use other social media sites for it. So now we've become refocused on just the technical side of things. And I think that's what you'll see in most forums these days.
Absolutely. So, all right. So that's techguy.org. And again, link to that in the show notes. We can certainly find that there. But another thing that, we've been doing for quite a while now is that we also, kind of find recent tech news as well as, I also want to, of course, I did catch let me see if I can find it here. I did catch that you were actually working on something that I don't think I could personally ever do because not that I'm afraid of heights. And well, no, I take it back. I am severely afraid of heights. And it's to the point where like if I'm walking around the house that, someone would be like, come on, Ben, just go up to the top step. And I'm like, it clearly says on the ladder, do not go on top step. And, that's very dangerous. And it's like, oh, come on, you're only like, what, 4 feet off the ground? And it's like, it's like it doesn't matter that my toes are 4 feet off the ground. It matters that my head is 15 feet off the ground or 12 feet off the ground. Like my head's the important part. That's the egg that's holding this whole thing together.
That's an important part. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so like I'm afraid of like a 5 foot, kind of home, hairy homeowner ladder. And I see here that you are working with something a little bit taller, a little bit higher, and just talk about what you were doing, why were you doing it of all people, and just how was it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's what it was. So here's the story. I have my real life, my real job during the day, my day job is running an IT service company. In a little town here in Pennsylvania, we provide IT services to small businesses in the area. And so we've got a little computer store where myself and a couple of technicians work out of. And of course, we've got great internet here and everything's wonderful here. About a quarter mile away from here, also in the same little town, obviously, is a car wash that I also own because, why not? And it does not have great internet. And I was looking at different options for that. And I was like, this is kind of dumb. I could just beam some wireless internet over there and be up and running. And there's a lot of other advantages to that too. If I ever need to swap files back or forth between the two locations or watch video footage, it doesn't have to go out through the internet, right? It can be direct to me through the wireless. So I started looking at possibilities on this, and I've used Ubiquiti equipment before. You've probably had Ubiquiti on before.
Ubiquiti, they sound familiar, but of course I may be thinking of things like Unity and things like that.
Yeah, well, Ubiquiti is, I'm a big fan of their wireless equipment. It's really well-known, professional-grade stuff, but at really affordable prices. And I've used a lot of their smaller wireless point-to-point devices before. For example, we install security cameras, and oftentimes, the customer wants a security camera on that pole over there on the other side of the parking parking lot, and there's electricity over there for the light pole, but there's no internet or any reasonable way to run a wire over there. So we do a wireless link over to it, and that's not a big deal. In this case, we're going a quarter mile, so we use something a little bit bigger, and they have wireless equipment that will go miles. I mean, easily 5-10 miles, as long as you have line of sight. And that's the trick with this wireless stuff, is you can't be shooting through buildings and through trees. And so over here at the computer store, right next door is a building that used to be owned by the ambulance squad. And they've got this nice, big, tall tower that they used to use for their radios. It's out of service now, but that's what it was once for. So I talked to the homeowner there, and they're willing to rent us some space to be able to put a little antenna up there to be able to shoot this internet over to the car wash. And then we got from another homeowner a regular little TV mast, like you often see on the side of old houses, a TV tower that they would use to be able to dial in the TV reception. We got that from someone who didn't want it anymore for obvious reasons, and put it there at the car wash. And now I'm putting an antenna up there so that we can just beam the internet between the two places. And we're going to have line of sight there. At the top of that, we can see the other one with binoculars with nothing in between. It's a straight shot. So I'm kind of excited about it. It's kind of a fun project. And so, yeah, just on Monday, we were up in our bucket truck, and I was up in the bucket and putting 38 feet up, putting this wireless antenna up there, putting it up almost as high as I can, so that, to make sure that as those trees continue to grow, it will continue to have line of sight.
That is just, and honestly, kudos to you, because I think a lot of people will look at that and go, all right, I'll call the cable company. They'll run the internet, and I'll pay whatever they have me over for. And you're like,
here's the thing, Ben. I'm also really cheap.
You're cheap, but I don't think they just hand out bucket trucks for free.
Well, we actually have it. That is our bucket truck. We use that for security cameras and wireless internet and things like that as well.
You already have one lying around. Okay.
Yeah, if you have, who doesn't have a bucket truck? It comes in handy. You never know. Christmas lights. We've talked about my Christmas lights. You need a bucket truck.
Right.
And but it's a fun project, though. I'm really hoping it's going to work as well as I expect, because I'm hoping to be able to get internet over there for credit card swipes and things like that, and also being able to watch the cameras. But I'm hoping this wireless link is going to be low latency enough that I'll also be able to use it for voice over IP and have a phone there that's not connected out through copper anymore, but actually is connected through the wireless link. So that's part of it that I'm excited to see. I've done a lot of smaller wireless things. Even there's a local Christian camp up on the mountain that wanted wireless across their whole campus. And we did something similar. We had smaller wireless point-to-points that we would shoot up to the pavilion at the top of the hill. And then at that pavilion, there was a wireless access point connected to it. And so you were connecting to wireless to connect to the wireless point-to-point to get back to where internet actually was. And it worked great, though. It was no problem. But it was a lot closer than a quarter mile away. And a quarter mile away isn't that far away in terms of these, but it is for me, and for being relatively close to the ground. It's not like we're shooting to a giant tower up on top of a hill or up on top of a mountain. So it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it.
I mean, and there's a lot of ways that you could take this where, first of all, let's talk about the quality of the internet. Wireless is not everyone's kind of first choice, but of course it's, in a lot of cases, the only choice you get. Is the quality of the internet good?
Yeah, I expect it will be. We don't know yet, right? Because I actually don't have the wireless point-to-point up on this side yet. This tower, I need to wait until Ben gets here so he can climb up there, because it's so tall that my bucket truck won't reach it. So any day now, Ben will be here to climb up there, and
just keep waiting. Just keep holding that torch. And of course,
but I think it will be, to answer your question. I really do. I think we're going to get 100 megabit easily over there, maybe even more, which is faster than what our internet is. So that'll be plenty fast. And I really believe the latency is going to be good enough that VoIP is going to work fine. I have high hopes for this, but
I have to warn you. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, some of the questions I've had in the thread about it on Tech Support Guys, what about the weather and what about the winter? Because we are in Pennsylvania. So if you get enough snow stacked up on something, sometimes that, or ice freezing on it.
Absolutely.
But these are pretty vertical and pretty flat and smooth. I don't think we'll get too much stuck to it, or at least not for very long. I would expect, though, in really heavy snow where you would lose that line of sight, I wouldn't be surprised if the link deteriorates a little bit. But I really think it's going to continue to work. I think we're going I have high expectations.
It's one of those things where if the line of sight is blocked, then something apocalyptic has happened, and people aren't probably going to be washing their car. In the case of severe snow, severe rain, things like that.
Well,
So
someone pointed out on here, he says, I'm guessing that not many cars are getting washed until after the thick snowstorm. But you'd
right.
be surprised. I've been down there, we often try to do maintenance on rainy days, and there'll be people out there in the hand bays washing their cars while it's raining outside. I don't know.
Are they
It's very
worried about the water drops and some whatever?
no, because they
Yeah.
just want to get the bird droppings off, They're just
I guess. So and so all this, and I have to warn you though, this is a slippery slope. I see it all the time. You connect up one radio kind of Wi-Fi kind of deal, and the
Uh-huh.
next thing you know, you are talking to your neighbors. You said what you did. They say, "Hey, can you get me internet?" And you go, "Yeah, for $20. Let me know." And before you know it, you're installing more antenna, you're installing entire networks, and you become an ISP. So be careful.
Yeah, I hope so. That'd be a good problem to have.
So, all right,
I'm interested to see how well it works, and it's fun. It's fun to do real world projects. It's neat to talk about this stuff hypothetically, but then to get up there and actually run some wireless tests, and it's I'm excited.
right. No, it's and please let us know how that how
Oh
that
yeah,
of
I'll
course
keep you
turns out.
updated. Absolutely. Yeah.
And of course, anyone out there watching the video portion, we can of course see you up there in the bucket truck, way up high, and we can see what these devices look like. Very sleek, very minimal. No one's even going to
Yeah, and they're
probably
really
know.
affordable too, because it used to be back in the day, this type of wireless would be hundreds or thousands of dollars, and these little antennas are less than $100 each. I mean, it's not like, it's fun.
And by the way, and just some more about the technology real quick. Does this hook up to kind of like a cell plan, like 3G, 4G kind of deal, or is this through the company you bought it with? And you have to get a plan from them. I mean, where
No,
does
so
the
this
internet
doesn't.
come from?
Yeah, the internet will come from whatever these actual Ubiquiti nanostations just create a network connection. So if you already have to have internet from your cable or DSL or whatever on the other side, that you're going to beam over to them. So it's really just creating a network connection between the two locations.
So and so that means that you have an Ethernet running up the tower from somewhere more accessible.
Right, exactly. Yep. So we've got, internet here at the computer shop, and we're going to run a wire from it up to the tower next door and all the way up. And basically that it's just going to put both networks together. We are going to have a firewall between them, but essentially it's just going to make one network out of both locations.
And this is kind of interesting to me because here shortly in our house we're going to look to start to get more and more wireless security cameras. And there's one a bit down the driveway, and being able to run a wire just isn't feasible. So
Sure.
I guess if you wanted to like this may be a little heavy duty, although you said less than $100. So
Yeah, well, and they have a lot of different versions of it. There's one that's like $50 that I've used a lot, and it'll go, to the other side of a parking lot easy, no problem.
so yeah, and that's what I'm
But
kind of
line of
interested
sight
about.
is another
So,
thing. I don't know about your driveway, but line of sight,
a lot of
is
trees, North Carolina, the mountains, a lot of trees. So that might be a
Yes.
problem.
right. So you'll have to consider that for sure.
Maybe like a stronger signal just to deal with all the problems. But
Well, in all seriousness, if you do have a little bit of trees in a wireless signal, when you're trying to do a point-to-point connection like this, these wireless antennas come, in several different frequencies. 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, of course, are the most common because those are unlicensed. You don't have to get an FCC license to use them. Ubiquiti has other ones you can buy that are in different ranges of frequencies, but you then have to get a license to be able to run them. But the 2.4 gigahertz, and you probably already know this, but some listeners might not, goes through things a lot better than the 5 gigahertz does. The higher the frequency, the less it will go through an obstacle. So in my case, I'm running 5 gigahertz because I know I've got clear line of sight between these two locations. But if anyone's doing one of these fun projects and wants to, shoot at an antenna, at a neighbor or to the end of the driveway or to the garage or workshop outside the house or whatever, if you do have a tree that sometimes sways into the way, especially for a close one, that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be an issue, but go for the 2.4 instead of the 5 because it's much less likely to be be an issue then.
Right. I mean, there's just as ties into new technology people might be seeing on their router soon, but there's of course the 2.4 gigahertz, and then a lot of routers now have a 5 gigahertz bandwidth. That they have a 5 that they're going to allow you to connect to, and then soon. I know that we reviewed I believe it was a Nighthawk like X10 from Netgear, where they have like a 60 gigahertz
Right. Yes,
connection.
and that's even more sensitive to obstacles.
Right.
The 60 gigahertz. I mean, oftentimes you put them in a room, and it's difficult to get a reading on the other side of the room. I mean, it's difficult. And then the other problem you have is exactly the opposite: is the reflection of that signal. So if you have it near an obstacle and it reflects back to itself, it'll create interference for itself. And so there's a lot of things to take into account. Sometimes
Right.
moving a wireless router just a couple of feet in one direction or the other makes surprising results.
Well, yeah, and the point that I wanted to make with all that was just the fact that you may see 60 gigahertz and you think, wow, that's 12 times better than 5 gigahertz. And it's like, if you're in the same room, it's going to be able to transmit a lot more data a lot faster. But if you are hoping to connect to it in your kitchen when you are on the other side of your house, fat chance probably won't happen. You're going to be stuck with the 5, or if you have the 2.4 and you turn on the microwave, whatever. So my point is that very, very cool. And this is the second time that I can remember in recent history where you bring up things and I'm like, wow, that might actually solve a problem that I have. The other one was the one with the internet connection, where you could run 2 different internet connections and plug them into one device, and they would kind of combine the 2 connections into twice the bandwidth, and you'd be able to use both networks.
Right.
I forgot the exact product of that, but no, you find really cool stuff. I mean, great day job. It's seems like being able to live it, like you said. So
It's a lot of fun. It really is, and I'm fortunate I get to play with things that I really enjoy working with. It is fun.
absolutely.
There's something else you said. And with the 60 gigahertz, I saw this demo of a guy reviewing a 60 gigahertz unit, and one thing that was really funny is that if he turned his back so that his body was between the laptop and the 60 gigahertz wireless access point, then he lost signal. It was that sensitive to objects in between them.
That might hurt my feelings, make me have to go on a diet. I mean, that's really...
and not all of them are that way, and most of them are working on actually being able to bounce the signal and be able to use it that way, using the reflection instead of the direct. But anyhow, it's much more complicated than people would think.
Right. Yeah. And so, but very good points, and very cool to see you use this project. Let's go ahead and move on to some of the stories here. And I had another one. I'm actually not even going to bring that one up. So we have a couple of stories here. You picked them out. We're going to start with some of yours, and we're going to start with the most important ever. And that's the fact that, all right, a couple of days ago, a study came out that asked people their preferred method of consuming media, be that Netflix, any of the other streaming sites, cable, satellite, antenna. They asked for everything in any way people consume data. What was your favorite? And what came back was really, not surprising to everyone, was that Netflix was by and large the most... I don't want to use the word trusted, but the most preferred way of consuming media, because there's no ads. Many of them cited the lack of advertisements and the fact that, what you see is what you get. You're allowed to binge watch, that kind of thing. So Netflix still has a lot of public goodwill going for it. With that being said, though, you have an article here, and I don't know how... Yeah, and I've seen other people say that this is inevitable. We're going to talk about what it actually is, but more expensive Netflix. So why did this catch your eye, and what is this about?
Well, it caught my eye because I use Netflix like everyone else in the world, right?
Right.
And I love Netflix. Where else am I going to be able to binge watch The Office all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix has always had... Oh, I'm getting audio from somewhere. Is that from one of mine? I don't know. Yes,
yeah.
It is. Don't you hate these websites that automatically push audio to you? There we go. Anyhow, thank goodness Chrome gives you a little icon to tell you which tab to close.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so with Netflix, they've always had several different packages available. Right now in the U.S., there's an $8, an $11, and a $14. And the differences between those is whether or not you get HD, whether or not you can get Ultra HD, and then also the number of devices that can be streaming video at the same time. And Netflix has been increasing their fees periodically. It was not that long ago where they just had another fee increase for everybody, and it looks like they're playing with the idea of changing around some of those packages again, and charging even more to be able to go to 4K Ultra HD.
They're really going to push the boundaries of just how much can they charge, like how much do people value Netflix for, and how much are they willing to pay for that? Because when it was $7.99, everyone jumped on board. When it was when they jumped up to $8.99, everyone said, you know what, more than worth it. We're still happy. I haven't seen the prices, like we are fancy, so we have like the 4K one, and I think we pay like $15 a month already. And we're still like, 4K, ultra high definition, whatever. We're okay with paying $15 a month for that. I guess it's finding that ceiling. It's Netflix, of course. I don't want to say that they're hurting for money. They have a lot of subscribers. They have a lot of new original content that they're paying for. So obviously, if they're going to fight these recent mega mergers, I'm sure, Mike, that you've heard about. I think it was Disney bought Fox, I want to say.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, so now Disney, of course, owns all of Fox's content that is not, sports and news. So, right. And they're going to be coming out with something to compete against Hulu themselves. I guess to compete, or, they kind of see the writing on the wall. They see it. We're going to have some huge players coming into the market. We're going to have to step up really everything that we do to compete. So, I mean, Ultra Tier, did they say what Ultra Tier actually consists of?
Well, right now, the $14 a month one includes the Ultra HD 4K,
Right.
And up to 4 screens. So what they've done in the past, and kind of what the controversy is that they're going to be taking away things from the lower tiers. And then the Ultra tier will be, this possibly $20 one, or will be the one with 4K and with more screens. And then they're going to take that away from the lower ones, which will cause controversy and make people upset. I think it's probably safer for them just to continue to increase the price of the packages already. I think people will be less upset and more understanding about that than removing things from a package you already have. But
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they have better marketing people than I am.
One thing that I know that happens, I've never used it because, again, fortunate enough to be able to pay for this monthly, but there's a pretty big underground seedy underbelly of Netflix where you can go online and you can buy and sell account subscriptions, where
Right.
obviously when you go in, you have the ability to make like 4 user accounts on a single account. And Netflix never really checks about, well, of course, they check where you are so that they know which content they can provide you. We talked about the whole VPN thing a while ago, but they never really check, oh, someone just logged in from Seattle. Oh, someone just logged in from Austin. Oh, someone just logged in from Washington, D.C. Like, they don't care that all these subscriptions are logged in from numerous places, numerous times. Essentially,
Sure. As long as the max isn't hit, as
Right,
long as only 4
right.
people are connected at any one time.
they really don't care if it's in the same quote unquote household at all. So if they start taking away maybe screens and maybe hoping that people will buy their own Netflix subscription instead of piggybacking off of each other, maybe that's the way to go. But
Well, and that would be hard to enforce, right? It would be hard to say, okay, it's only for within the same household. I mean, sure, you could limit it by IP address, but then what happens when, you travel or you go to the beach or I go out for a
Right.
business trip or I'm sitting here at work and,
well, I was thinking that
watch-
maybe 2 user accounts instead of 4 user accounts, things like that.
And you could get really technical, right? You could say you can have up to 4 streaming at home and then up to 1 streaming somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that gets to a level of complication that some people might be confused by. But I think it's conceivable they could do
There's-
something like that.
there's really nothing Netflix can do, between raising prices, cutting features, really no way to make this equation go that won't make people unhappy at some level. That's
Well,
just
people are always
raising prices.
unhappy when you're going to charge them more, and it's a
Right.
fact that you're just going to have to do that, though. I mean, over time, they need to charge more than they are now just to be able to continue to make a profit. They have huge bandwidth bills. They want to continue to do more and more original content, and they have to do more and more original content to compete with Disney and ABC and Comcast and all of these big players who are now finally getting into the streaming game. So
Right.
what are you going to do?
Right. No. And
And maybe what the hope, I don't know. Another thing I had heard thrown around was the possibility of doing an additional.
but before you even say that, music is playing in the background, and we're gonna leave that as a teaser. Everyone, find out what that other thing is when we come back. More Computer America, more Mike Cermak, techguy.org. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare,
What about Puerto Vallarta?
let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
There we go. Yep. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And we are talking with the one, the only, Mr. Mike Cermak, techguy.org. And yeah, we were talking about Netflix and the fact that, they're considering, potentially increasing their premium, ultra tier, whatever that you get all the bells and whistles with, and then maybe even stripping some of the content away from the lower tiers that are, their base package. So you were saying just before we went to break, they were considering doing something else?
Well, this is all rumors. I don't know that they're considering anything.
We love rumors.
But, do you hear me?
Yeah, no. I said we love rumors. Go ahead.
Yeah, we love rumors. Absolutely. Sorry, my connection dropped for a second, I think. So it kind of goes something you just alluded to is that perhaps they will have different packages for different contents. So just like right now with your cable package, there's different levels of packages you can get that include certain channels. That perhaps Netflix could do something similar that would include different types of content. And I don't know exactly what that would look like as far as family content versus whatever versus the original content. I don't know that they would necessarily do that.
So,
but that is something I've heard thrown around a little bit.
So, of course, there's precedent for that, and the precedent involves, of course, cable packages. As much as people run away from cable packages to Netflix, obviously you can buy like the sports package, or you buy like the the family package, which has a lot of kids shows. I could maybe see Netflix do something like that. Although, you know, when you start offering those kinds of things, like I can't even ask that because I know a lot of people who raise their kids on Netflix. It's not even like how many people would go for the, you know, kind of kid-friendly Netflix as opposed to like the movie, you know, the blockbuster movie Netflix. So maybe something like that. And the other place we've seen it, and Mike, I don't know if you've ever done it. I don't think many people do, but YouTube, and essentially like YouTube TV, where they are streaming content, but they're also streaming like live sports and a couple other live kind of thing. It's more expensive. It's somewhere between a Netflix subscription and a cable subscription, but they have different tiers of content as well that you can kind of subscribe for. I can see Netflix doing it, and it would have to be very particular about how they group the content, because they don't want enough people in one group to say, oh, good, finally, I don't have to buy all of these kid shows, and suddenly they're making less money because they're, you know, paying for something that they didn't want in the first place.
Sure.
So,
Yep. That's true. And then one more final thing to throw out at you before we move on is the possibility of charging based on usage. So based on number of hours watched, for instance.
See, that's one where I would get in trouble, because when I watch Netflix, and I am 99% sure Netflix doesn't care, but there's a Chrome application or a Chrome app available in the Chrome App Store, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this one, Mike, but it's called Flix Assist, Flix Assist.
No, I don't know that one.
All right, so you mentioned that you like to binge watch The Office. So Flix Assist will, kind of take away a little bit of the headache that happens when you watch The Office, where it will automatically know when on, let's say you're watching episode 1 and the credits start rolling, it will automatically skip that. It will push ahead to the next one, and it will automatically skip the intro. Or, and not just like the beginning part, and it won't just skip 2 minutes ahead, but it will only skip the intro, and it will keep going. And also, it will prevent Netflix from asking, are you still watching every hour or 45 minutes, whatever it is. It'll do all of that behind the scenes without you mentioning it. So, like, if you like to binge watch, Flix Assist is like a must-have.
That's interesting. That way you don't feel so bad about the fact that you are binge watching. You're not reminded every hour that it's like, do you really not have anything better to do with your life?
It's like, yes, no. Netflix.
Please continue playing.
It's like, yes, Netflix. It is the 4th time you've asked me, and I'm not going outside. Please keep playing. So, yeah.
But I really do like that feature, though, because oftentimes I'll actually fall asleep watching The Office, for instance. And then I'll wake up to that screen and I'm like, I'm glad it hasn't been streaming for hours.
And I'm kind of the opposite, because I kind of grew up getting used to sleeping with the TV on. And
Interesting.
So it kind of turns it into like a television cable-esque
You
kind
need
of
that
experience.
background noise, huh?
Right. It's not even so much about watching the episodes in its entirety, it's just having background noise on. So
sure, I understand
certainly
that.
helps with that. But all right, so with that being said, there's Netflix, and I think that in the past, when they've gone too far, when the users have kind of felt that they were, kind of being taken advantage of too much, they have pushed back. Netflix has heard them and tweaked their prices. So I'm sure they're going to be very receptive to whatever feedback they get. But like I said, there's going to be a lot of competition here within the next year. Good on Netflix for, trying to figure out this instead of being very reactionary. Instead, hey, figure it out now. So
yeah,
with let's see, there's Netflix. Let's talk about so and by the way, Mike sent over a story. We actually talked with I don't want to say Krebs. I don't want to say we talked to Krebs. We talked to one of our regular security correspondents here on the program when it happened, but yeah. And they said, and we talked about the whole Russian VPN filter, router, malware kind of deal, where and I'm not sure which one in particular. This one's talking about, because there was one where you essentially just had to restart your router, and that prevented Russians from essentially using your routers as a botnet. There was one that I think the FBI seized a botnet, a different one that was using like VPNs. Just real quick, we're not gonna get into it, but which one in particular was the one that you linked?
Yeah, so the link I gave is to one from Symantec. It's symantec.com/filtercheck. And if you go there, it's a really quick, surprisingly quick. All you have to do is check a box and click a button, and instantly it'll tell you whether or not your router is infected with this VPN filter. And it's a big thing that's going around. I mean, there's a lot of Netgear's TP links, Linksys, D-Link, Asus. Very likely your router may be on the list. So make sure you update your firmware, and if you want to be extra cautious, you can run this little check just to make sure.
Yeah, and looking through them here, and it looks like almost every single one that could possibly be on the shelf at Walmart or Best Buy, which is probably where 99% of our audience has purchased their router from. So,
right, very common. I mean, yeah.
That's about everyone. So
it's not like it's hitting a small section of the market.
and actually, I was thinking, we received a security push to our Netgear router about 3 days ago that we were having some trouble with kind of putting on our system. We were using the Netgear Orbi, and the update worked fine on the base station, but then on the satellite it was wasn't taking it as easily. So. All right, so yeah, obviously update your firmware. We've tried it. It usually works flawlessly, and yeah, very interesting. Good to know. So, let's see. So there's that one. Let's talk about one more, and then we'll move over to some of the ones that I sent you. But I like this one. So often we talk about on the show, it's Netflix raising prices, or it's Russians hacking your router, or so many kinds of things, and I like this one. Sweden has reached its 2030 renewable energy target this year. Mike, I mean, are you big on renewable energy? Why?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm huge on, I'm an electric car kind of guy. I have solar panels on my office here and on my home. I'm big into renewable energy. I think it's obviously the future. And it's really exciting when you have a country, even a small one like Sweden, who takes this seriously. And they aimed, they had big renewable energy goals that they had aimed for 2030 and hit them already, or are about to hit them.
Mm-hmm. So and of course, let's see what their actual kind of targets were. So let's see, forward prices, renewable energy market. I mean, what were they actually trying to achieve by 2030 that kind of led them? Like, did they produce more wind turbines, or was it the amount of energy?
That was the biggest thing there. They certainly have solar there, but wind turbines are bigger. They were aiming for, I think, 840 megawatts of energy. Oh no, the final investment decision for as many as 840 megawatts were taken in the second quarter. So their total of 7,506 megawatts of wind capacity will be installed before the end of the year.
Yep, and
so that's a lot of energy. I mean, especially for a small country, that's a lot of power.
Yep, and they said they were trying to. This will be more than enough capacity to meet a target to add 18 terawatt hours of new renewable energy output by the end of the next decade. So no, and obviously they're going all in on renewable, and this is something that you think about, but at the same time you don't think about. And then you hear places like China and Australia, mainly. Australia just reached their one of their goals or they said they were set a new goal for solar energy, because I don't know if you know this, Mike, but Australia is an island. And
I've heard that.
Yeah, they're way out there. Like if you want to use natural gas or coal or whatever, you either have to suck it out of the earth, which is very difficult, especially in places like Australia, or you have to ship it over, and that's expensive in its own right. So Australia is going all in on solar and wind. energy as well. And then, of course, China is installing, all the solar panels in the world. I mean, it's just cool to think of a day when you really don't have to fight over, how many mountains can we blow up to extract the coal, or how many, how much fracking can we do to get the natural gas. It's all about, all the energies right there. You just have to set these things up and, collect it.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And along those same lines of an island, trying to figure out where I can send you this article. But
It's
in any
Skype,
event,
go ahead.
yeah, well, I need a tech guy to help me. Apparently, I can't bring chat up oh, there we go.
Top right, yeah, you got it.
Technology. So anyhow, the Tesla, I always have to bring up Tesla. It's a requirement on the show.
Of course.
Recently did a project in America Samoa, where it's an island and it had traditionally been powered by diesel fuel. So they had diesel generators there. They would, bring big ships in full of diesel fuel, which was expensive and dirty and all of that. And not only is the diesel fuel expensive, but in order to get them onto the boats and then over to the island and then pumped off and so on, and loud and noisy and dirty and so on. So what Tesla did is they went in there and they put in 5,000 and some solar panels, something like that. And it's 1.2 megawatts of battery storage. So during the day, these solar panels charge up, they feed electricity to the island, and also charge up these power packs that Tesla creates. And then at night, the island runs off of the batteries. And now they don't have to run off of diesel fuel anymore, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's a completely renewable source for the energy for that island. Granted, it's a small island,
Right.
but still.
No, and they let's see, Tesla and their Powerwall, they installed their own speaking of Australia, they installed one in Australia. I believe
Right,
that
that's what made me think of it.
Yeah.
And that was the other exciting thing in Australia, and you can see this even in the US, where we've had to have rolling brownouts, in California at peak times. And that's what they had in Southern Australia. During their summer, this past summer, they had major issues where in the middle of the day when everyone was running air conditioning, they would have to do rolling brownouts because they just weren't generating enough power for everybody. And so Tesla went out there and put a bunch of these power walls out there. I forget how much they put in Australia. Do you know how many megawatts? I think it was like 2 megawatts or somewhere around there. It was a lot of power. So the idea there is not so much renewable, but during the day, whenever everyone's using their AC, you run off of the power plants and off of the battery. And then at night, when no one's using their AC, then, or very few, there's much less demand for power at night,
Right.
then those power plants are still running, but they're running in order to charge up the batteries. So it's kind of like a cache in your computer.
Well,
It's a
yeah.
buffer.
Yeah, and that buffer, I mean, that's really the important part where it's not even, from what I hear, it's not even about using more electricity, obviously when you use less, but if Australia were to use, the constant maximum amount, they could just build, enough power plants and they could supply that constantly. It's that fluctuation like you were talking about where you go from your
Right.
high to your low, and it's, just switching it over on the fly. That's where the brownouts happen. It's about,
And then you get to the point where you have to consider building power plants just in order to handle those peak times for a couple of hours during the day.
and then they sit
And then-
idle, right?
Right, exactly.
So, and then there's that, and then you mentioned California. I believe Elon Musk just said that they nailed down a contract that they should build. I think they said it was going to be like 3 or 4 times bigger than the one in Australia. They're going to build in California.
That's crazy.
Full of them. So, I mean, renewable energy is a huge part for sure, but honestly, a bigger part is going to be batteries and how do you even out
Yep.
that energy distribution, and that's going to be a big
And I've
part.
heard that said that a big part of what Tesla is, they're not really an auto manufacturer, they're a battery manufacturer. And that's true. I mean, I think going forward, that's going to be a huge market for them.
But here's the problem. A big problem is the fact that, and this gets a little, I want to use the word esoteric, but that's probably not the right word because I don't even know what it means. But it might be a little esoteric that, from what I hear on the horizon, there are unfortunately lithium shortages, where obviously everyone uses lithium ion batteries or lithium batteries. That's what's in Tesla. That's what's in your laptop. That's what explodes in airplanes when you ship phones overseas. That's what's in everything is lithium batteries. And despite an article coming out every week about the next great best battery, we're still using lithium. So there's a shortage coming up. I believe even Tesla has said that they're having trouble sourcing the raw materials to make their own batteries. And it's, it's going to get a little hairy if we don't really come up with a new, copper zinc battery or something like that. It's going to start getting a little scary, because what if we have a battery shortage? They're becoming so important to our day-to-day life. What'll happen? Who knows?
Right. And everything has, there's a finite number of everything. Fortunately, lithium batteries largely can be recycled as well. And I'm not completely convinced that we're approaching a shortage anytime soon. I think that may be put out there by some of the people who are not into the renewable energy thing. There's a lot of reserves that are out there, and I've read reports saying that we have enough to last for many, many, many years. And I think 90 years was the most recent one I'd read. I was trying to find it now. But all of that is always based on your guesses, on your estimates, right? Because how much are we going to use this year versus how much did we use last year? Surely it's increasing, but at what rate?
It's that thing where everything has to use a lithium battery, where be it the Internet of Things, or be it now our entire power grid, or every single car that we have, or just so many things are using lithium. I think you're right. I mean, the article that I'm thinking of was definitely only it was the one-off, and I thought, maybe soon we'll start seeing more articles talking about the lithium shortage. It was just the one so far, and that was like less than a week ago, but we'll see. But yeah, lithium is going to be a huge part of it, and batteries and that kind of thing. So
well, and I just found this on Wikipedia for what it's worth. There's a 2011 study by Berkeley National Laboratory that says that they estimate that it won't be a limiting factor of large-scale battery production for 1 billion 40 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion batteries. 2011, University of Michigan and Ford Motor Company found that the resources will support global demand until the year 2100, including the lithium required for the potential widespread transportation use. So, but again, it all depends, right? But that's still a shortage, right? 2100. That's we're not going to have to worry about it, but our kids might.
I don't know about you, but advances in medicine, I plan on living over 100.
Well, you are much younger than I am, so
yeah, by like what? Maybe like not even 10 years. I don't know. So
something like that.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's see. I want to find the stories that I just sent to you, although I may have. Let's see. So all right. So obviously, wait, they're down here. So obviously, I sent you a couple, and I will have to kind of reach back and kind of pull those out. But I wanted to talk about some of these. We have like 5 minutes left in the show, or like 7 minutes left in the show, and. Did any of the ones I sent you, kind of catch your interest? Because one of them that kind of did.
The London police one was kind of interesting. Is that where you were going?
Yes.
So the London police chief says he's completely comfortable using facial recognition with a 98% false positive rate. And I didn't say that wrong. 98% false positive rate. So 98% of the time where the cameras think that they've identified someone that the police are looking for, it's wrong. But certainly that's going to continue to improve.
I think that they would get better, and I made this joke last time I heard about the story. I think they would get better numbers if their camera just said, "Is that Janet?" And it might be better than 98%.
Well, perhaps, but it's difficult when you look at statistics like that. So if it looks at 1 million people and it can narrow down the search even a little bit, that can be helpful, especially reducing the workload of police. Being only 2% accurate is not so good, so they'd have to increase that. But if they increased it by tenfold, then you're starting to really talk about some time savings. And I think you'll continue to get that, but it's hard to do it without putting real world equipment out there and seeing what happens and fine tuning it. So I don't know. And this, I'm just talking about the technology side of things. It doesn't even get into the whole, the government watching you scary thing. You're already on so many cameras all day, every day, but do you want the government to be able to watch you and watch your every move and track you as you walk through the city or drive through the city? In many cities, they are already. So, are you okay with that or not? I don't know. That's a whole other controversial topic.
Right, it is, and that was one that, as we said earlier, that if you want to see, and I really do think this, if you want to see technology done wrong, like if you want to see technology used to oppress people instead of embrace people and empower people, just honestly, just watch what's going to happen in China over the next 10 years. They are doing so many things between social credit scores to
Yes.
facial recognition to identifying people against their will to tracking people. I mean, honestly, if you want to see technology done wrong, there's going to be use cases, or there's going to be cases in the world over the next decade. They're going to show you, hey, technology can catch the bad guys, but it can also oppress groups of people. And yeah, so. And
I think what it's going to come down to is we're going to have to decide, each individual society on their own, as to where we draw that line for privacy. As it is in the U.S., many, many, many police departments already use cameras to be able to read license plates, both mounted to the police car and mounted statically, in different places, so that as you drive around, that's reading your license plate number and checking a list to see if you're on a wanted list. And most people are okay with that. Yeah, they're okay with their license plate being read several times a day, and the police knowing at this time Ben was driving through this intersection going that direction. And it's like, well, that's all right. But then when you get to the point where it's facial recognition, people tend to get a little bit more concerned. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out and see how we decide as a society what's okay and what's over the line.
So the last time that we heard about this technology, and namely the one you were talking about with license plates, was that the concern people were having, and this was actually happening, were that they were tracking people's driving habits. So they knew people's average routes when they were going to work and coming back home. They knew, kind of when to kind of expect you. And at the same time, they knew when you were coming from certain places. So they knew when you're coming from work and when you were coming from maybe the bar. And if you were coming from the bar, they would know that most people usually take this road at this time of night. So if they wanted to increase revenue, they could potentially put police officers on the routes where they knew you were going to be after you came back from the bar and stop you and give you a breathalyzer and see if you were driving under the influence and potentially, ticket you or arrest you or what have you. I mean, obviously, the good way around that is to not drink and drive. That's a very obvious
right.
one.
So is that a bad thing?
Right. Well, yeah. But at the same time, it's putting police officers kind of where people are, like, even if something isn't happening, like you're not swerving, you're not doing anything, but you're just stopped because you were kind of profiled to the nth degree thanks to big data. Is that okay? Because you're catching, you're just throwing all, that bigger net on very targeted fish, I guess.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
I could see that. Because the other thing I was going to say is the whole, Google is already following you, right? They already know from your phone.
Yeah,
That's
but
how
I
they
like
create
them.
the Google traffic maps. People don't realize how those Google traffic maps are made, but they're largely made by your phone in the background, sending data to Google about where you are. And you can go in there and look at the reports. Google will show you where you've been over the last however many years, and it freaks people out. But they're like, well, that's okay. I'm getting something good in return for that. So it's, again, there's that fine line. It's, where is it okay to remove your privacy in exchange for something?
So, and, some of the other points, and by the way, one of our chatters in the chat room mentioned that, 98% of the time it's wrong. Someone needs to be fired. As they kind of said, the commissioner who is in charge of this said that they are completely comfortable with the technology's use, and that, that they are, they have lawyers all over it. And essentially, it's going to get better with time. Everything gets better with data. And this is
really, it's not as though the computers are ticketing people or arresting people, right? It's just popping up, asking an officer, hey, have a look at this. Is this the guy you're looking for?
So
and the officer's having to
supposedly-
hit no 98% of the time.
So
But
supposedly,
2% of the time.
Yeah. So supposedly the commissioner who's in charge of this, she was one of the police officers that found a suspect. They facial ID'd him as a potential terrorist, and they, unfortunately, the gentleman was killed on the subway there. And turns out that it was a misidentification. He was an immigrant plumber, and the police, were on edge, and obviously, the worst case scenario happened. So the technology has loopholes, just like, Mike, we talked about it with Tesla and its auto driving. People are going to put too much faith into it too soon, and there's going to be situations. But anyways, the music in the background means that we're flat out of time, and I wish we could end on a higher note. So, Mike, that's your job. End us on a high note. If people want to learn more about you or techguy.org, where can they go?
Free tech support for your facial identification cameras. Go to techguy.org and post a question there. A volunteer will be happy to help you out. And like I said, whenever you're there, look around, see if you can't help someone else out, and keep the good karma going.
Absolutely. So, and everyone out there, first of all, Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone else out there, thank you for tuning in. If you missed any of today's show, please feel free to catch us on our podcast version, which is just today's show in its entirety, wherever podcasts are heard. So, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Be sure to tune in tomorrow, where we have an app called The Chefling that will actually recommend recipes to reduce food waste. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, Mike, thank you so much again. Everyone else, catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.